Hello, everyone, and happy Labor Day. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Geraldo Rivera, Eric Bolling, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Welcome to our Labor Day special. We hope you had a great holiday weekend, and we've got a packed show for you tonight. We begin with two big issues on America's minds this election season: immigration and foreign policy. Which candidates have the strongest platforms? Which issue will be the most important to voters when they head to the polls? First up, immigration and the candidate that's certainly fired up the debate over it.
I will build the greatest wall that you've ever seen. I want it to be so beautiful, because maybe someday they're going to call it the Trump wall, maybe. So I have to make sure it's beautiful, right? I'll use the word anchor baby. Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
They have to go.
What if they have no place to go?
We will work with them. They have to go.
It's about laws. It's about borders. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country.
Certainly, the debate has been fired up on immigration, and this is the man, Donald Trump, that has led the charge in it. Definitely some varying viewpoints around this table, and I'm sure with those of you at home as well. Geraldo, I'll begin with you.
I think that Donald Trump is, in some ways, brewing up a recipe for the absolute institutional destruction of the Republican Party. I think that when you look at all of the voter turnout demographically, historically, and then project it forward going in America's future in this century and beyond, there is no doubt but that the candidate who wins the White House has to appeal to a certain percentage of the Latino voters. Remember, Latinos are just like everybody else. There are conservatives, there are moderates, there are liberals. There is a group there that Governor Jeb Bush astutely sees as the future of the Republican Party. They are Republicans in Ronald Reagan's words, immortal words. They may not know it yet, but they are, but not with Trump's rhetoric.
All right. So you don't find it helpful. This is my sum up of your situation.
Thank you very much.
Bolling.
So on Trump's plan alone, solely, as we were doing first, look, I'm on record as saying I think that you, in fact, could build a wall, and I think it's a feasible proposition, and I think there are ways to make Mexico pay for it. Donald Trump originally didn't have the ways to make them pay for it. He's since developed some ways. I'm not sure I like all of them. Some of them incorporate import fees, and that would be trade restrictive. There are other ways to do it. In my opinion, I think you could pay a fair market price for a barrel of oil and cut 50 cents a barrel or $1 a barrel off what you're going to pay Mexico and use that money and put it towards the building of the wall. If they don't like it, too bad, we'll go buy the oil somewhere else. A way, not his way, a way. As far as deportation, I would tend to agree with where he is. If you're here illegally, you should get in the back of the line, not the front of the line. And what I think he's missing in this proposal, and something that maybe Geraldo and I may agree on, is that we need to increase legal immigration. We do about 990,000 legal immigrants the last year reportable. I think we can double that or triple legal immigration, thereby getting a lot of the people who are here illegally back on the legal roll and paying taxes. So I do, yes, Kimberly, I like his immigration plan.
Okay, so, and you've got some ideas of your own on it. Okay, so but the thought process here is that this needs to be a party that is inclusive, that embraces all different minority communities to show that this is a platform where you have a lot to offer in terms of, yes, traditional values, good schools, safe neighborhoods, and immigration has to be a piece that includes all of that. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not a new issue for the Republican Party or for the Democrats. I mean, this has been for the last two major presidential elections a big issue, and we go all the way back to 2006 through 2007, the big immigration fight on Capitol Hill that President Bush led and ultimately wasn't successful in getting. But why? One of the reasons is because the Democrats decided they needed that issue as a wedge issue for 2008 in that campaign, and they were smart about it. If you look at the numbers of, and I point to Geraldo on the demographics.
That's rude. No point.
I point to his point, is what I was trying to say, because I think it's a good one. Whoever crafts a message to appeal to Hispanics and Latino voters, you're not going to win all of them at the Republican Party. The Democrats shouldn't be allowed to win all of them, but whoever crafts a message that appeals to them to try to vote with them because they think their policies are better, that's who will win the future for elections to come. You cannot carve out the Latino vote and think that it doesn't matter for your election prospects. If you're Democrats or Republicans, Republicans have a lot of work to do, but it's not a new issue for them. It's actually very complex. And when you get down to that nub of what do you do with the people who are already here, that's the hard question. That's where leadership comes in.
Absolutely. And my God, what a great opportunity for the party to gain people to be involved, not only to run for office, but to
and it
cast
can be
votes in
done.
this
If you look
election.
at, for example, Ed Gillespie in Virginia Senate race this past time, he actually won, I think, 50% of Hispanic voters in Virginia. You actually can do it. You go and you talk to them, you are persuasive, and they will vote for you.
A great candidate, too, and we should have seen a little bit more of the Republican Party and the finances getting behind him because he could have won that election. Lesson learned.
True.
Greg.
Everybody here is right.
Oh, yay.
I just thought I'd be really
Happy
positive.
Labor Day.
No, but Dana's correct. This is not new. We've been discussing this for years. Eric's right that it's an important issue for everybody to have an orderly border. A sense of order and not some kind of chaos. Geraldo's right that we may have alienated a large base. So what has happened? What is different is that the way I look at it, I see the introduction of talk radio and cable TV talking points into political conversation about immigration. That basically what Donald Trump has done is reflected what we say on our shows, but he's saying it now as a politician. We used to be the ones that say, can't they be stronger and say these things? So then he says these things that we have been saying for a while, that we've all said something along these lines. And so we see it and we go like, wow, I'm not used to this, because we're not used to seeing it from a politician. My worry, and
So what's the problem?
My problem is what
out.
Geraldo says, is that I think that when you talk about things like immigration, especially in this time of divisiveness, you need a persuasive voice that can unify, that when you talk about immigration, that it's an inclusive conversation about an orderly system and that rejects
Is that Jeb Bush?
I think Jeb Bush is. I'm probably closer to him than I am to Trump on immigration issues.
Me too.
Meaning that I believe that the greatness of immigration of more people in the United States far outweighs the detriment of a closed system. This country only gets better by the people that come here and work hard, and 99% of these people come here to work hard for opportunity. But I go back to the fact
that
there's no system that is certain for them to follow in order to get here, unless you do what Eric's suggesting, which is increase legal immigration.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I do agree with Eric about that.
Yeah, if you had 2 million per year, it's about $1 million now. If you had 2 million per year, feasibly within 4 or 5 years, you've made everyone who's here illegally legal. They can pay taxes. Interestingly, though, I was reading it. I'm not sure it's accurate, but Univision did do a poll on Hispanics, and they had Donald Trump leading among Hispanics.
Not the
that was
poll
Republican. I think Hispanic Republicans.
Possibly.
Hispanic Republicans.
Obviously, this is a top issue that everybody's talking about in 2016, but we also have more, Geraldo, because we have foreign policy to discuss. And one of the crucial issues in 2016, it is the fight against ISIS. Which candidate has the strongest plan to defeat the terror network? Here are some of the GOP contenders.
A winning strategy against the Islamic State, or against any threat to ourselves and our friends, depends ultimately on the military strength that underwrites American influence.
We really are sitting by when we could be leading a coalition of Arab allies to defeat ISIS.
The FBI is investigating ISIS in all 50 states. We need to restore counterterrorism and surveillance programs, invest heavily into cyber tools, and improve intelligence and law enforcement cooperation to catch terrorists before they strike.
So one of the other key issues is the fight against terror, the fight against ISIS, how it should be handled, and very different opinions about whether or not we should have boots on the ground. All people agree the issue of national security is of paramount importance. Geraldo, you've had a lot of times where you have been embedded overseas, you've been with the troops, you've been with our military to really see firsthand the fight against terror.
I think that the problem is that most of the candidates have not had the time that I have had over there. If they did, they would know that what is going on there is essentially a religious war. The Sunnis are fighting the Shiites, are fighting the Kurds. Three different aspects of Islam, but just like we had the 100 Years' War, Protestants against Catholics, and the same way we had more people killed in the name of religion than any other cause, we have to recognize that the Gulf states and the Saudi Arabia foreign policy, that all of these people are essentially only interested in fighting the other religion. We have to not put ourselves between those forces. We cannot alter those forces. And we also have to stop meddling when it comes to a strongman. The only time, it seems to me, that Arabs can get along is when you have a strongman who says the country counts more than your religion. People like Saddam Hussein, people like Muammar Gaddafi, people like these other dictators, more or less, I won't say benevolent, but
not quite,
but not as vicious as some. They gas them in the context of the religious war. We have to stop nation building. George W. Bush was against it and then started doing exactly what he preached against. We have to recognize that they have been fighting each other for 1,000 years. They'll fight each other for another.
All right, before I go around the table, just name your candidate that you think best espouses and supports your viewpoint. I mean,
well, I have to, it's every one of them says, I want a strong military. Duh. Right. Everybody says that. No, I'm going to say, I want a weak military.
No, but there are people who believe in defense and military cuts, and that's not something that I think is a good idea.
I think that the only reason I am interested in ISIS is that ISIS is inspiring acts of violence here, and ISIS killed our people, and we have to revenge or avenge those deaths.
All right, Eric, you've had an evolving position on this.
No, I haven't. I think we need to go ahead and carpet bomb ISIS and go aggressive. No, I'm fairly consistent that we need to step up the air campaign against ISIS. I don't believe in American boots on the ground. I think there should be an Arab coalition of boots on the ground doing the dirty work, finding out where they are, then certainly arming the Kurds, giving the Kurds everything they need because they are the one strong force. They're the best fighters in the region by far, better than our own Iraqi-trained fighters. I think you give them what they need and let them do it. Go ahead and do it. So I don't know who's all 17 positions and where they stand on them, but whoever decides to really go aggressively and wipe out ISIS once and for all from an air campaign U.S. and you want to finance other people's boots on the ground, knock yourself out. Just not American.
But every intelligence officer says we also actually need strategic boots on the ground and information because you can't. Carpet bomb sounds nice,
As I said,
but it's not.
I think if you do it with Arab boots on the ground, it would be just more palpable to me personally.
Why not redraw these boundaries and make the religious states out of them? Lawrence of Arabia made a rock out of, a piece of paper and a magic marker.
It's not that horrible of an idea. You mean you're talking about the three-state solution?
The Joe Biden's three-state solution.
It's not
that years ago. Dana, the problem is, too, and the idea is nice to be able to say, okay, we're going to carpet bomb, and yes, we should step up the air campaign. But as you see, we're even aware right now, as we sit here, of specific military training camps, ISIS training camps that we're not hitting because of the issue of collateral damage. So it has to be very strategic in terms of the information we're getting, real-time intelligence to make targeted strikes. They're going to put big dents in their game.
Agree, but I do think that it's a little too early to know what specific plans any of these candidates would put forward because they've spent the summer introducing themselves to Republican voters or to America writ large, but they've got to win the Republican primary first. So I think that it's a little bit too early. What you're looking for now, I think, in a candidate is what is your governing philosophy? What is your approach? How do you make decisions? What kind of people would you listen to in order to make decisions that are important for the future? Like, do you believe that people have the ability to self-govern? Nation building is an interesting one. That yes, in 2000, do you know that neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush in any of the debates in the campaign were ever asked about Al Qaeda? Not once. And on September 11th, that absolutely changed the trajectory of the world in the history. So I think that you have to understand, how does somebody make decisions? What is their philosophy? How do they approach life and government so that you can better understand how they would manage specific plans in the future?
All right. Well, there's, again, another opportunity there for a candidate to stand out with some kind of specifics that people can relate to and think are a good idea for the safety of the country. Greg?
Yeah, well, if you look at any of these issues, whether you're looking at in foreign policy areas like Iran or Russia, or if you look at immigration, you look at climate change, unemployment, economic inequality, all of those things get wiped off the front page and end up on page D34 below the hearing aid ad when there's one terror attack in the United States. All it takes is one guy to be right once, and the whole world changes. I think that where these candidates are really, really missing the boat is the democratization of violence. The fact that now you don't have to be a state to commit mass acts of genocide or terror against people, because as you have better technology, and you have a stronger will in terms of ISIS, and you combine those two together, you have a world in which a small group a very small group of people can enact mass terror and kill thousands, hundreds of thousands, and perhaps in the future millions through biomedical use. I don't think we take that seriously enough, and and it's not just about terror there. It's the fact that boundaries don't exist anymore. Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
Isn't that positive? I wanted an upbeat message.
It was true. I agree with you.
And much more to come on the Fives Labor Day special. Up next, we're going to answer some questions you sent in to us on Facebook on the presidential race and more. Don't go away.